Okay, so our game is a rhythm game that, as you saw in the demo, has notes of different colors, and then we take in inputs by tilting the board, as well as pressing the buttons on the board along with the tilts to address the different colors. So here's just a brief rundown of our front-end code. First, we declare some custom event types to hook up the inputs from the board with the actual note hitting. Here we also, again, process some board signals, and then here we pull the signals from the board and push those events to Python. Here we do some multi-threading. So this is actually an interesting challenge that we faced. To run the game, since it's a rhythm game, we wanted to run at like a consistent sort of like rhythm or kind of like a tempo, which is why we tried to use clock.tick. However, that sort of messed with the actual pulling of the inputs from the board, which is why we needed to, our solution to it was to set up this multi-threading such that we have two threads, one taking in the signals from the board and one actually inducing the game rhythm. So the rest of this is just the actual front-end code. So here we set up the game, some states. Here we load in all of our assets, so like the pictures, as well as like the notes. And here's the actual game logic. So these are just some functions for drawing the different screens. This is the actual code for running the main game loop. We do different logic depending on what screen it's actually in. For example, this is a song select screen, and this is the actual game screen. And then we handle the events differently depending on where the actual note is and whether we've actually hit the note at the correct timing or not. Lastly, we do some more drawings where we update the arrow. So this is actually where we process the beat map. And then this is where we draw our little mascot dancing at the bottom, and then just the generation of the notes coming down. And lastly, this is the score. And yeah, that's it for the front end.
Okay, so for the C section, our main goal was just to pull inputs from the board. And so we use the accelerometer to measure the tilting of the board. And we also use SW1 and SW2 buttons, where the buttons change color and the tilts correspond to the directions. And so for the accelerometer, a lot of the code came, like the boiler template code came from the bubble demo. And we basically just sent over the angles to the Python side in order to process them. And then for the buttons, we use the discussion canvas code in order to pull button presses and releases. And then we also sent these over to the Python side in order to process. And then for the red and green LED on the board, we use them to debug which direction the board is tilting.